In Chapter 15, we're going to cover the relationship between the press and the governments they operate under and how this is playing out in our increasingly global sharing of information through the internet. The form the press takes is usually a direct reflection of the type of government that it exists under. In 1956, the Fourth Theories of the Press was published by 3 journalism professors, and they were attempting to outline the major formats of the press around the world. And this is what they came up with. There was an authoritarian theory, communist, libertarian, and social responsibility theory within the press. And these are all kind of based on governments of different countries and how they operate. So let's look at authoritarian theory. Authoritarian theory is the oldest theory of the press, and this is a system where the press works as a servant of the government, not the people. And it came out of the idea of royal control. And this type of press is practiced in totalitarian states where rulers attempt to rule all aspects of social life. It's rooted in the idea of royal control. The aristocracy was said to have divine rights, or the authority of God backing them up. So they controlled society on the basis of this divine authority. And one of those controls included the press, as it was developed in the era of aristocratic controls, and the press served to spread the word of the anointed ones within the government. So the word of the king or whoever was in charge and anointed by God to tell people what to do. The press in authoritarian systems is regulated through licensing, intimidation, through laws, and force, which can mean silencing people through murder. Communist theory is also a condition where the press serves the government instead of the people, but it is also government run and many times operates under the guise of being free, but under the understanding that there is only one truth, so there's no need for competing ideas and there's no room for debate. The former Soviet Union and currently Cuba and China operate under communist control of the press. And the press is an instrument of the party, and undesirable information is suppressed. The media is tied to the government very closely and works as a tool for propaganda towards common goals. So they might have the skies of being free, but they have this overarching theory that there's only one correct answer and one way to do things, and they pump out propaganda for that cause. The opposite of these authoritarian theories is the system we use in the United States, or libertarian theory. In the libertarian view, the press is a separate institution from the government and operates on behalf of the people as a watchdog or an observer of the government. And there are several principles that guide the libertarian press's function, but it basically boils down to the marketplace of ideas, where competing ideas further our understanding and bad ideas fall away through public discourse. So in libertarian theory, people want to know the truth and they want to be guided by it, and the only way to arrive at the truth is for the ideas to be freely and openly discussed. And different people will have different opinions, and everyone must be allowed to develop their own. And that marketplace of ideas is that the most rational ideas will be the most accepted and the others will just fall away. And under this theory, we assume that the government is the greatest threat to free press, not corporate interests, which are actually kind of controlling our presses now through advertising dollars. Social responsibility theory holds that the press may be free of government control, but may still be controlled and censored by corporate entities. And it's an outgrowth of libertarian theory. A socially responsible press serves several functions in their society, and there are principles that guide social responsibility, including providing news to make our political system work, giving people the information that they need to self-govern, and to watch over the government and make sure that they aren't oppressing the people or doing underhanded things. Social responsibility theory brings together buyers and sellers. It provides entertainment, and it needs to be profitable enough to avoid outside pressures, which is difficult because the profits are coming from outside pressures, including institutions, corporations, etc., whoever has money. Several authors have suggested a fifth theory of the press and called it development theory, and this is when a country employs multiple theories of the press, like social responsibility and communism, at the same time. Press controls are created to promote industry, national identity, and partnerships with other nations. And this happens a lot in developing nations where the society is in a transition, and in order to be more prosperous, they pull in new ways to use their media. As an alternative to the four theories, we can also look at the media through the lens of the 5 dimensions that were proposed by Alan Wells. And they are control. Who is controlling the press? Is it the state, public, private, or corporations? How is it financed? Is it through advertising dollars, subsidies, subscription fees, taxes? Who pays the bills? What is the goal of the programming? Is it entertainment? Is it education? Is it selling you something? Are there cultural goals, political goals? What is the media source's objective in programming? Who are the consumers? Are they general or a specific group, the target audience that the media is being produced for? And what is the mechanism for feedback and participation rates, polls, ratings, critics? How do media organizations hear from their audience? What mechanism helps the audience talk to the media? So let's look quickly at some of the systems of media around the world. Canada is relatively free, kind of like us. Western Europe and Britain has biased newspapers and really heavily regulated broadcast system. Central and Latin America are relatively free, but they are very influenced by North America, Mexico, Brazil. They've had growth in newspaper circulation at a time when other countries are in decline. The Middle East and Islamic countries use social responsibility and authoritarian styles of the press. Small media is really important in these countries. Al Jazeera is an Arab language satellite news station that covers broad news. It has 40 million viewers. It's kind of like CNN in Arab language. Africa has a wide range of press controls. They have a lot of language barriers. There's so many countries there and everybody speaks a lot of different languages, and so TV is not really important, and little radio stations can be very important. Russia and former Soviet Union really have no tradition of a free press. They do have a tradition of censorship and government control. And India is a large market, and they self-censor to avoid government control. So they make sure that their content goes along with what the government kind of says is okay, so that they don't come in and censor them. China, there's a lot of variations on what the freedoms are there. And then in Japan, there's a mix of. Marshall McLuhan, the researcher who put forward an idea that we talked about earlier in the semester, the message is the medium, also popularized the term global village. In his book in 1962, The Gutenberg Galaxy, he used the term global village to explain how electronic media was helping people to interact on a global scale. The truth of this statement has only increased with the proliferation of the internet. McLuhan proposed that electronic media has bridged long distances and made the world a smaller place. Like the idea that I live in South Dakota, but because of electronic media, I can be concerned about a situation in Libya. And in the increasingly common communications between people throughout the entire world, McLuhan's ideas have become more and more relevant, and we are involved in many issues that do not affect our close community, but the world as a whole. So that is just a little bit about our global media system and communication around the world. Thanks for listening.